the Woodstock Village Board of Trustees. The first item on our agenda is the Planning Commission interview with Matthew Driscoll, who is sitting in front of me. So Matthew, do you go by Matthew or Matt?
Matt.
Matt, okay. So Matt, thanks for coming.
No problem.
So tell us about your interest in the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Sure. My wife and I recently moved to the village with our 2 young kids. We moved up to the area at the beginning of the pandemic, moved to Barnard first, then moved to the village once we decided we were going to live up here full time. So we're planning to stay. We're planning to live full time in the village and have a vested interest in sort of seeing it develop and, continue to be kind of a thriving community. And in the past, I've done some stuff related to real estate, private equity and things like that. So I have some interest in, just how you think about developing the town and keeping its character, but having young families and stuff like that be able to live here in a way that's, nice and walkable, and kind of why we moved here.
There you go. Awesome. Trustees, do you have any questions for Matt?
I do.
Go ahead.
Matt, have you attended planning and zoning meetings?
I have not yet. I plan to at the next one. I've met with Steve and Laura and a few other members of the committee about 3 weeks ago, but the one I was going to attend last week has not yet occurred. It was canceled, so it's moving to next week.
Okay.
Oh, actually, that's not true. I've attended at least one for my own home.
Oh, okay. Yes, Zoom counts.
Yeah, and because of design review when we were having getting a permit for a fence. So I've done design review board, not planning and zoning. Okay. Design review board twice.
Okay.
Okay. Other trustees, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Matt, what do you? I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'll let other trustees.
Brenda, Bill, Gabe, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. I read his application. Looks good.
Okay, Gabe, you're good.
What do you see as the biggest challenge that the village of Woodstock is facing? We're 2 municipalities.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I talked a little bit about this with Laura and Steve, but it feels like the split between feels like there's a lot of infrastructure spending that's probably coming up for the town. And so growth and tax base will influence how you're able to drive that infrastructure spending without increasing property taxes across folks. And so how you plan for some level of growth that balances the experience folks want of the town versus the services they expect of the town versus what they pay in property tax feels like something that is someone who plans to live here for a while. I'm interested in. There's probably no easy solution. You got to balance across folks who want things to stay mostly the same and folks who see a lot of desire for a little bit more growth. It feels like we've met enough folks in the village. It's hard to find housing for people who work here and stuff like that. And those are the kinds of problems that you probably have to crack the nut on over some amount of time. And so it's kind of an interesting thing to spend time on and important to the experience of being in town, because you don't want to be in a place where folks are closing or limiting hours because they can't have staff. You also don't want to be in a place where the experience of living at the corner of Pleasant and Central changes dramatically because everything becomes totally different. And so there's some balance you've got to strike over a relatively long horizon.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Good answer. Are there any comments from the, do we have anybody here, audience, from the community? No?
They're all watching the snow.
Yeah, right. So with that, I would make a motion to approve Matt Driscoll to be appointed to the Planning and Zoning Board. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
Congratulations, Matt.
Yeah.
You're a civil servant.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool. We'll go put the kids to bed.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice
Yeah.
evening.
Okay.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, next item on the agenda is additions and deletions from the, I'm sorry, citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments? The citizen, nope, no citizen comments.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I do, but I'm It's Lisa Lawler, but I, for some reason, can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
Hey, hi. I
Hey.
actually talked to Jeff about this earlier today. When they did the Zach's Place Turkey Trot, and everyone understands I love dogs, it's not a problem, but the number of dogs, the tightness of the situation, and the fact that I know someone who got bit, there needs to be some way to address the how to handle the increasing number of dogs in situations that are as tight as that one. I mean, every year I go, there's more dogs, and the dogs get nervous. They get
Yeah.
they get nervous, and we have a lot of people and a lot of dogs, and I'm hoping that when you think about your permit process going forward, and that's you guys to figure out, is how you discuss this with people who have animals, with the committees that run these. I mean, it's one thing for the covered bridge because they're out at Suicide Six. It's another thing when there are so many people jammed into the elementary school in the South Street. And I think Joe can also talk of this, Joe Swanson. It's tough for people. It's tough for the animals. And I'm hoping that there can be a way for you guys to discuss this towards the future. I'm not saying ban dogs. I'm just saying let's figure out a solution.
Okay. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
It's a good thing to keep in mind, Lisa, before next year's event
Or
occurs,
anything that,
or anything that's that
Large crowds.
that many people.
Yeah, I mean, we seem to, and I live on Maple Street, who has all the Halloween. There's more dogs on Maple Street now. So, are we putting people at risk? Is the village going to be responsible for this? If, someone gets injured during a village permitted event or a village approved event. So I just want you guys to think about it before the next event occurs.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay, next item on the agenda is additions and deletions from posted agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Trustees? Okay, Eric, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. In that case, let's go to the manager's report. Eric?
A few things. One, last week we kind of changed the offices around in town hall. So almost everyone's in a different office as they were a week ago. So people coming in, just have some patience with us to get more signage up. But we're hoping this kind of allows more efficiency throughout the office and kind of makes a little more sense on where people are located. So we're excited to see how that turns out. Town hall will be closed this coming Monday in observance of Martin Luther King Day. So that town hall will be closed, so no one will be there if anyone needs any help. Last, obviously we have the snowstorm over the weekend, and then whatever is gonna happen to us tonight into the morning. So just everyone be safe, exercise some caution. DPW will be out on the roads doing the best they can. So again, just have some patience with them as we try to clear the roads and make things safe for everyone.
Any questions or comments to Eric about that? Citizens? Okay, Eric, do you want to move on to the financial report, please?
Yeah, so two things I wanted to highlight early on. One, if you look at under police revenue, parking fines, parking meter revenue, we're still behind on posting those. We've just been really inundated with a lot of financial stuff that we were unaware of, that we're finding out. So this is one of the things that have been pushed to the back burner. So you look at those numbers, the first two, they're only up through September. But you've looked somewhere down at the credit card permanent parking, they're more up to date. So you kind of see where the trend is going when we update everything. But
Oh, wow.
as we're witnessing with the Chief Swanson reports that we are ahead in revenue there, but just slowly catching up. So hopefully that will get us to where we want to be. The other thing I want to point out in revenue, where is it? Give me 1 second. If you look at the plan and zoning permits, so if you remember, Stephen Bauer, the planning and zoning administrator, it came in front of both boards asking to increase the permanent fees. We're just, you know, a little halfway through the year, and they're nearly at their budgeted amount. So I think we've seen these fees, the increased fees actually work and increase revenue while also not decreasing work being done in the village. We see something similar in the town too. So I just want to highlight that as well. And then if you look, very end of the budget, this is not a perfect revenue, but if you look at the last page, page 16, for appropriations, again, we're over halfway through the year, talking about being January 9th. We're only 44% of the way through the budgets. So I just want to thank the department heads for being fiscally conservative, as we also try to offer the best services to the community. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Jeffrey?
I do have,
I have a question too.
go ahead, Gabe.
Oh,
So,
can Gabe go first?
does, so Eric, I'm going to ask a very pointed question.
Yeah.
How is it Tom Densmore or Mike? The new accountant that's working on the numbers.
Robert.
Robert.
Yeah.
So how is he working out? Because I must say a delay of 4 months or so on working out this parking meter thing seems a little irregular. So what's holding it up? I know
So
you
what
said there's things going on,
Yeah.
but there's always the opportunity to get things right, and maybe that's a little extra work, little extra overtime. But things shouldn't be 4 months, almost 5 now. We're looking at September.
So what a lot of that is the way our current accounting system works for this type of revenue, the police revenue, is it's not transferred into the account until we reconcile the month. So it's not done until that month's reconciled. Robert came on in October 1st, so he's been here just over 3 months. He's reconciled July, August, and September. He's working in July now, so he's kind of done a month every month. And so it's just a matter of him trying to come on board, learn our systems, learn how we've reconciled in the past, clean up some past errors, but also everything else we've had to throw at him from the FY25 budget. He's never done a budget before. He's never used NEMRIC before, working with our consultant to kind of understand how we've done financials before. So sometimes I've come to him and said, stop reconciling. I need you to work on these projects instead. And that's why he hasn't been able to reconcile everything, because in my view, there are things that are more time sensitive than backfilling revenue that we know we're going to get to eventually. The goal is once he is fully on board and caught up, that the reconciles will be done by the end of the following month. So January will be done before February ends, February done before March ends, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're striving for.
So what does fully on board mean, and when do you think he'll be fully on board?
I would say probably the 6-month mark is usually when people usually start feeling comfortable in the position, when they've learned enough, they've been through enough cycles. He took a position that was empty for about 3 months, maybe 2.5 months. And on top of that, came in on a time when he wasn't able to sit in his office and kind of just go through all our financials. He had to come in and start working right away on the budget, and on some things that had slipped through the cracks without anyone being in that position. So my hope is by the 6-month mark, he's fully on board and we're kind of up to date where we want to be with everything.
I guess some of the things Gabe brought up, that's one of the smart things I was, the police do gather the parking meter money monthly. And it's just a set amount that they know at the end of that month. That one
Yeah,
line
so
item, I don't quite get why that one is as complex as it is to update.
it's not complex. It's just the procedures we used in the past. So the money comes in through the police department, and they just deposit it into one single account at the bank. And along with all the other money that comes through is deposited in the same bank. So we then have to go through and allocate the money in that account back to where it needs to be in Nemrick. So the money comes in, and the town has it as revenue in the bank, earning interest and all that other stuff. It just hasn't been allocated in Nemrick, and we've traditionally done that as we reconcile to each month. So as he's going through and looking at the bank statements and then documents from the police, that's when we typically lined up those things and do the reconciliations that way. So that's kind of how the process has been done, I'm guessing, the last 20, 30 years. We are happy to fix that, but right now, as I was saying to Gabe, there's so many things being thrown at him that changing the procedures is not what we want right now. We want him to come on board, understand everything, and then make the changes to procedures when he feels comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything else, Jeffrey?
I did. I just want to say that office administration is at 117%, whereas it should be at 50%. And police administration is very high. Just a couple of things to note, because we're just halfway through the year.
Yep. So these were brought up, some of these last time. And I believe I did email the trustees on some of the, are you talking about under law enforcement?
Okay.
Yeah, some of them, two of them are a grant that we're just waiting to be reimbursed for. And the other one, small tools, is a taser contract that former Chief Blish signed after the budget was created for this year. So nothing was allocated in the budget for it that year. That's why you see the higher increase there.
I'm talking about administration, but
I think that time that needs to be moved into the sick time capital reserve at some point. But it's not, I think, overspending.
Oh yeah,
yet.
Jeffrey, if you're talking about the overall on the police administration total, that's mostly because Chief Blish's payouts was done under the salaries and wages, and we'll move that money into the capital reserve sick time at the end of the year.
okay, okay, great. One suggestion: we have we keep listing the tree expense. No, not the tree expense. Well, maybe I'll bring it up later. It's just a small thing, but one of the things listed is $1,000 for the East End parking. That's 2 years old and no longer valid as an entry at all. It should be moved.
Yeah, so if you remember, last time we talked about the FY25 budget, you brought that up and we took it out of the budget for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't even be like a line item.
Yeah, it won't be going forward, yeah.
Yeah, because we're working off the old
Because
budget.
it's in the new budget still as a line item.
It's as a line item, but we're not going to fund any money in there, so it won't be anything there next year.
I know that. I know we're not funding it. Okay. And real estate tax revenue that's shown is for last year's real estate tax?
So what it is, it's the way our system works for real estate is the moment the billing goes out, that billing amount is recognized as revenue in our system. And then we have to go in and make the transfers out for certain things. So that number is not always 100% accurate at the time.
No, it's quite off. I mean, it'd be really nice if 100% of the people paid their taxes by December 31st, but I think
that's why it's so accurate, because it's showing the exact number we billed out, not the actual money that we received.
Okay, so it's not quite actual. All right. Okay. No. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, trustees? Or citizens? No? Okay. In that case, we will move on to the police chief's report. Joe?
Hey, good evening. everyone. How are you doing? Let's see.
Good.
To start out, we'll since we're talking numbers right now for meters for December, for kiosks, we are at $4,339.25. For meters, we're at $4,459.88. For Park Mobile is actually $7,292.25 for a grand total of $16,091.38 for December of 2023. December of 22 was $14,902, and December of 21 was $12,634. So we're up about another $2,000, a little bit less from last year in December. Coming up next week, Sergeant O'Keefe will be attending training at the Vermont Police Academy. He'll be certified as a field training officer, and that will enable him to help me manage the field training program for new officers going forward. The last 3 days, so Monday, Tuesday, and tomorrow, I've held training at the Emergency Services Building. We've been hosting a use of force class for Sanuj, Officer Aurora, and some others that were in his class to get them trained up, and that's also allowed us to get some of our officers to do their annual training by cycling and during that class. That's about all I have. We had a safe Christmas and a safe New Year's Eve with no accidents or casualties, so I'm happy about that.
Right.
Trustees, do you have any questions for the chief? Okay, citizen comments? The chief? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a
Lisa has
question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
And it's okay. I noticed the police, there are certain officers who are on duty who park in the village and walk around. And because I work in the village now, and there are certain days where no one walks around. And I think we need to encourage more community policing within the village. I don't understand why some do it and some don't. And that same works when I'm on my street. I mean, some officers wave and some don't. So I'm hoping there can be, I understand excessive force training. I understand all these things, but we also have to look at community policing and how, I'm not sure why only some officers stop in the village and walk through and some don't. So maybe
They-
you could.
Outside of I don't control, and I'm not going to start directing them as to when they do their foot patrols, but there's always a foot patrol in the morning, in the evening. Sometimes it's later in the evening, they're doing door checks. Then Robbie always had us doing inside 2 businesses, but it's not always every business. So just someone may not see the officer one day, but they're usually there at some point.
Right, and I get that, Joe, but
So,
I also noticed there's,
and obviously maybe some do it more than that, but we're doing it.
but I would like to see it when businesses are open
Yeah,
more.
and then also sometimes in the evenings after they're closed and doing the door checks, but it's some of them. It's one or the other.
Right, but I'm going to continue to press this, that there needs to be, because the businesses need to see and meet the officers, and when there's only door checks at night, they're not seeing or meeting the officers. And that's all I'm saying is it would be nice. It builds community trust, it builds community involvement. So if you can just think about it, think about a plan so much as, meeting more people in the village versus doing it when there's no one in the village. That's all I'm saying.
They're doing both, during the day and sometimes in the evening. So we'll continue doing our patrols. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe, when is the next vehicle getting marked? What's the progress there?
So far, the first vehicle marked is the town because we already own that. The next two vehicles, I don't have a delivery date for. I'm hoping very soon. They're, I guess, a recall on one of the vehicles or both the vehicles that is at the Ford level. So that may be holding things up a little bit, but I should have an answer pretty soon for when we're getting them delivered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else for Joe? Okay, in that case, I'm gonna turn it over to Jeffrey because I'm the next person on the agenda asking for a permit.
Okay, can you state your name and place of residence?
Yes, see, I'm even on the other side of the table. Yes, my name is Seton McElroy and I live at 10 North Street in the village.
So please tell us about this parade.
So it's not a parade, it's a high heel race, and I've
Right.
got my co-conspirator Allison Hankey is up on Zoom. And so this is part of the Pride of Woodstock weekend-long celebration, which goes from May 31st through June 2nd. I like to think that the high heel race is the crown jewel of the weekend. Our plan is to there's a map that you can see that's included in the packet. Our plan is to start the race at the intersection of Pleasant and Elm, right at the crosswalk sign. That will be our start line. And then it will end at the crosswalk that's sort of right in front of, I guess, the flannel store. And on both of those ends, we will have pickup trucks that will sort of act as stages so that we can do the ready, set, go, and then the commentary when people cross the finish line. We'll be using the barriers that already exist, that are already going to be set out for the half marathon the day before. So we're asking to have Elm Street shut down from the bridge down to Central Street, and then on Pleasant Street past Benson, so that we've got all of the space in case we get so many people that we need to sort of stretch out. I've already talked to Joe about how we can set that up. And after, we're hoping that we only have to close it down for about 2 hours. If we can make it less, we'll do that. But then once the race is over, we'll move everybody over to the green, and that's where we're going to do awards and that sort of thing. So we will get people off the course as soon as possible so that we can open the road back up.
When does it start?
It's on Saturday at 10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
11, Seton.
We decided on 10 last weekend,
Last weekend.
last Friday.
Okay, how did we get to 10 o'clock?
So that people could get to the first seating of the drag brunch at 11.
The first seating's at 11:30. That's why the race was set up at 11.
Okay, we might change the time.
No, I just wanted to, no, because that's the reason it was set up. 10 is a little early-ish, so, but we can, does it matter, Jeffrey, if we have the permit from 10 to 12? If it starts at 11?
No, I was just curious when it started, Gabe.
Yeah, so I put on the permit to have from 9 to 11. Because we're gonna have to set up beforehand anyway with putting out the barriers, and then we're gonna have trucks set up and set up our speakers and all those sorts of things.
How long do you anticipate the race to actually take?
Oh, the race is not gonna take very long. Setting up and cleaning up is gonna take longer. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes.
10 minutes.
2 minutes. So it's 2 hours for 2 minutes?
10 minutes.
It's the fastest 2 minutes in heels.
It is. Some people might strut, and if they strut instead of run, it could be a little different.
So are you going to have an ankle specialist medic there?
We have insurance for such things.
Yes, David Green is aware.
He is. He refuses to run in it, but
Come on, he should.
We'll change.
We heard that, Bill.
I know, he should. Everybody's doing it. Why not?
everybody is welcome to run in the race. Men, women, straight, gay, whatever. we're all here for it. But if nothing
Yeah,
else,
but
I think
let's,
everybody could come out and cheer on the sidelines, certainly.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Do any of the trustees have any questions about this hilarious high heel race,
Hilarious high heel race.
hilarious high heel race?
Ooh, alliterative.
No, okay. I would make a motion to approve the high, I'm gonna continue with the word hilarious, high heel race. As presented, except for a little confusion about the start time.
We will update you.
we'll update it.
Well,
Yeah.
except that it's sometime either 9 or 10 or 11 in the morning that it starts.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Sure.
Okay, I got a
Yeah,
second. So Brenda, all those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain because it's my own permit.
Wonderful. We look forward to this. It should be great. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm also the next one on the agenda.
When do we
Okay.
hear more about the weekend?
Oh, website should be up soon. The donation button is up, so anybody who wants to make donations, come on in.
Okay, the next one is for the green.
Yeah, so this is just a permit for a banner on the village green. We wanted to put it up starting on the May 27th and then taking it down on the 3rd. So it would be a Monday to Monday. So it would be that Memorial Day, Monday, through Pride weekend.
And the fee?
We have paid the fee.
Okay, it's not marked on here.
Oops.
Fee paid.
Yes, it's paid. Alita wrote a check.
Any questions but from the trustees regarding this? Seeing none?
Oh, wait, Beth has a question.
Beth? Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that the banner might have to go up either the Friday before or the Tuesday, but not
Oh,
the holiday,
if no one's working.
Yeah.
Okay.
unless you want you and I to put it up. Or Gabe.
I'll let the professionals do it. I'll drop it off early and I'll let the municipality make the decision.
Okay. I make a motion to accept the banner as presented. Is there a second? Second by Bill. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you, Jess.
Yay.
Does this mean I can go home now?
No. Madam Chair, have your seat.
Great job, Seaton.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the moral support, Allison.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, now that that crazy woman's out, is another permit for a banner. Glad Rags, are you here for Glad Rags? Come on up.
Okay, Molly.
I'm Molly Hutchins. I work with Glad Rag. We have 2 sales each year. I have applied for banners to be hung a week in advance of each sale, and we have paid.
Okay.
Well, it's something the community loves that you do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Please take my stuff.
We will. We have dates that are being, notices are going up on the listserv by Lee Snell weekly, giving the dates before our April sale.
Yeah, seen it already on there.
Yeah, twice.
Okay, so this is one for September 15th through the 22nd, and then one
April.
for April 21 through 28.
Correct.
Okay. Trustees, do you have any questions about the permit? Citizens? Okay, in that case, I would make a motion to accept the permit for a banner on the green for September 15th to the 22nd and for April 21 through 28 for Glad Rags. Is there a second?
Second.
Jeffrey seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I go home now?
You can go home now. Yes. Oh. It's a party. Okay. Next item is the approval or a vote on whether to approve the FY25 budget. Eric, do you want to talk to us about that? If there have been any changes since the last time we talked about the budget last year?
Last year, right? No, it's still at a 6.75% increase over the previous year.
You
No
mean the tax, you
changes.
mean the tax rate is six.
Tax rate, yeah, sorry, tax rate, a 6.7 increase in the tax rate from the previous year. So if you remember, I think we originally started at 7 point something, we brought it down to 6.9, then 6.75. So that's where it's currently. So it's more or less the same budget we talked about a few weeks ago.
Okay. So more or less, what changed? Anything, or is it just that the numbers were different?
I think when we talked at so we got that down to 6.9, and then what it was our accounts receivable person, their allocation is unique because they also do ambulance billing, and that was accounted for in the budget. So it wasn't the typical town village sewer split. There was another split, and what that did was lower the expenses for the village a little bit by having more of our allocation on the town side. And that allowed the rate to come down another 0.15%.
I would move that we accept the budget under the administrator recommended column for fiscal year 2025.
Just real quick, are there any questions or comments, trustees? Or citizens? And then Eric, oh, excuse me, we also moved all the East End, we moved the East End revenue over to the town, right?
That is currently still in this budget for the trustees. We haven't yet assigned an MOU with them yet, so we didn't make any changes yet.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. In that case,
Okay, I made a motion to accept the budget of for the administrator recommended budget for fiscal year 2025.
is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a whole bunch of discussion. First is a wassail debriefing. I remember we did a little bit in December, but since we've gotten a little space, I wanted to just sort of do a quick follow-up on what we think went well in terms of like how the municipality managed things and what we can be doing better or different next year. Beth, do you want to just sort of give your overview since you manage most of the events?
You know, from our standpoint, it was extremely crowded, and I say that in a good way. I know for many residents, especially of the village, that it gets a little overwhelming, but people were safe, people had a great time, the weather was good, the parade was too short, and you know, we're working on things for next year. I think we do need to talk about, I mean, you know, we can talk with Joe about it, but you know, I definitely think we need to talk about bathrooms. I think the buses worked, getting them out of the center of town, but you know, it was still, we had 1,400 people in the Welcome Center on Saturday over that, and that's a lot.
And so you said bathrooms, you mean in terms of we need more of them or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If we're going to continue like we are.
Do you have numbers on how many people came into the Welcome Center? Like, do you just have December or do you have the weekend?
I'm sorry, Eric.
Do you have the numbers on how many people came into the Welcome Center over Wausau weekend?
I said 1,400 on Saturday.
Okay.
Friday, it was significant, you know, in the 400, and then Sunday, if you remember, it was not a nice day, and we were back down to the 300-ish number. But Saturday was huge.
So I have something, Beth. So, and I don't have a lot of concrete things here, but just a few constituents of which, one of them is a business owner, and I'll be happy to talk about it offline once I actually, have a conversation with them. But, question about whether we could expand the Christmas market. Secondly, about enhancing the wassail experience, specifically one of them being the parade and really making that pop a little bit more. And those are my words, pop. But to your point, it was short and a lot of people did comment on that. And what can we do to make it a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more long-lived? I don't know what else to call it, but those are some of the comments I got. And I'll know more once I do meet with these people.
I
Can I just say that in response, we are, unfortunately, I didn't get the permits in time for us to discuss them at this meeting, but they will be brought in, submitted tomorrow. But one of them is to expand the artisans market to Friday night and Saturday.
Okay.
But it's still, not going to be huge. I also had a call from a business owner who wanted a European Christmas market for the whole month. And,
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that serves our business as well. I think it's great, if we have, an extra 5,000 people in town, I think we can share Saturday and Friday night just because it'll look pretty with the lights, etc. To have a full-fledged, huge with structured market, I'm not sure that I would support that because, the fourth quarter and Wausau Weekend in particular, supports our downtown businesses. But the parade is another thing. And we definitely will be putting a committee together. If anyone is interested, please contact me. Just sit on that committee because the goal is to make sure that the parade is worthy of all the press that we receive.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I
the
have-
comments, I'd like to make comments on I heard so many comments because of where I'm located as a business. The parade was a disaster. People stood around for so long, and then it was so intermittent, 10, 15 minutes from one horse until the next one appeared. And when it was over, it was like, they were like, what? It was, I mean, I've seen every single one of them firsthand, and this one, I seriously doubt that. No, I think quite a few people who came this year will definitely not come back next year, because that part of the experience, which was featured as kind of one of the central parts of Wausau, was pretty much a disaster. So yeah, I would emphasize the importance of finding a way. I know we've talked about it a little bit, Beth, but it was big how bad that part was. With the expectations and the numbers of people lining the streets. I hadn't seen those kind of numbers of people lining the streets on Central and Elm, not to mention the around the Green, in many years, since the 90s probably. So that part's got to get back or it's gonna hurt.
We have to find a horse association that is interested. I mean, we are willing to step up and we've already reached out to the high school band for next year. We have another band that we're going to be contacting from Brattleboro. We'd like to have a little music. Horse people are a little, question that the music part, but I think we definitely need to. It's first on our agenda.
Joe, you have something?
Yeah, thanks. My comment's pretty much the same as Jeffrey. I don't want to conflate the parade as being short as much as it lacked the pizzazz, because with traffic, it's pretty long. And with those gaps, it can be very difficult to manage traffic because you see the cars see the road looks empty, they want to go, and managing and controlling the traffic with these large gaps is very difficult. I think some sort of parade marshal that controls keeping the floats entering at a consistent pace. There was one poor group of ponies and kids that tried to enter the parade after the last float, and then there was cars coming in front of them
Huh.
that they didn't
Yeah.
get to finish with the parade, unfortunately. And I think that's probably something that's true of all our parades. We get very large gaps that kind of extends how long Route 4 is closed, and it's getting pretty difficult to keep Route 4 closed for a long
Should we be looking at a different route? And maybe we can talk about that offline. If anybody,
Yeah.
again, if anybody, please call the chamber. We will set up a time to, either by Zoom or by personal meetings to discuss. But, put that in the back of your head. Should we do something different?
I think it's not a different route so much as what Joe just said. The
Having a marshal.
Seth, you remember when, it'd be one entry after another, after another, after another with very
I know.
short distance between them. So that has to be brought back to bear, no matter how many entrants there are.
Or maybe there's no horses.
I think if it's efficient with the entries consistent, I don't think it would be a better product, and I think Route 4 would be closed for a less amount of time, and you'd have a more impressive parade.
Yeah, yes.
I like the idea of a parade marshal. I think that sounds, certainly wonderful.
And that's where also having something like a marching band is helpful, because marching bands do nothing but step in time and do things when they're supposed to.
Right.
That'd be nice.
So I have a question aside from the parade for Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, just in terms of business owners, yourself and others, was that weekend successful for most business owners as far as you know?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Gabe, it's an essential weekend.
Yeah.
Look what's going on in the village right now, which is kind of typical. Nothing, pretty much. It's very quiet.
Okay.
And
No, I
it's
just wanted to see what the effect might or might have not been having people on the green, but I'm sure they made their way to the stores.
there were so many people, they still made their way into the stores, but
Good.
most of the business owners would not want to see more on the green than currently exists in terms of kinds of things that are being sold in the stores currently.
Joe, how was
Not food or drink or things like that. That doesn't impact the majority of the business.
Joe, how was the weekend from a safety perspective and managing crowds and managing people? How was that for your officers?
It's pretty smooth. The hardest thing is parking, and then even after the crowd dies down, sometimes you have some cars that are left over in bad spots, and we did have to tow one car later that evening because it was kind of
Was
down on
it parked perpendicular?
No, it was just in a no parking zone down on past Vale Field on 106. So with all the other cars there, it doesn't stick out, but when they leave, it's kind of road and a bit of a traffic hazard overnight, so we had to tow it.
That's
Eric,
helpful to know.
what was the perspective of the town staff and the public works guys, the road guys, just trying to work throughout that weekend? Did they feel impaired, especially when we add extra trash and that sort of thing? Is there a way that they think that that things could go differently?
With DPW, yeah, their major issue was I was RC in town for the event, and at about 4 o'clock, I called some guys in to go around the village to pick up the trash. And at that point, a lot of the trash barrels were overfilling with half-eaten chili, quarter-filled cups of coffee. So they were getting stuff kind of spilled all over them because the trash is just overflowing. Um, so I think next year and years forward, we're gonna have the same type of traffic. We probably need to have someone on duty throughout the day, going around the village, checking on barrels, and just paying that overtime to make sure we're picking them up before they're overspilling onto the ground. Um, I think that was the major thing, was just that the trash for us over the weekend.
Okay, anyone else have feedback on the weekend, the crowds, the parking, the bathrooms, the food availability, all that sort of stuff? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the first draft of the updated use of the green ordinance. Gabe and I met and sort of started going through the existing ordinance and came up with some ideas about changes that we thought would be helpful based on conversations that we've had with the trustees and with people who've had the permits before, and also things like the amount of trash that ends up from events, those sorts of things. So if you look in your packet, which is not printed in, oh yeah, here it is. So not in your packet, but I sent you a follow-up email that had the changes in it. And I can bring it up. Or do you want to bring that up, Eric, or do you want me to?
I can bring it up if Nikki, you want me to share my screen?
So this is the existing one that ended up in the packet, but there's an updated one. Okay,
So that's
so
the first change here.
yeah, so the updates are all in green. And so can everybody see that? I'm gonna bring mine up on my screen too. So the first thing that's a change is at our last meeting, when we were talking about potential changes that we wanted to make, we talked about allowing nonprofits to be on the green, and then what kind of for-profit or not nonprofits did we want? And we talked about charging them a use fee as opposed to just a permit fee or a security deposit. So this was the first attempt at looking at, for private events, which of course anybody can walk through the green at any time, we will certainly keep that. But if it's a private event, something like you know, a breakfast the day after a wedding, which is something we've had in the past, or if somebody wants to do, I don't know, a fundraiser or something on the green, that it really is just meant for the Rotary, you know, maybe that's an example, but it's meant for a group. And or let's about an example, a for-profit group. I started with this idea of how much would it cost. So I did a 5 to 25 people. The usage fee would be $150. I won't read it all to you, but $300, $450, and $550, depending on how many people that they had. So that's the first change that we made. The second change that we made was, again, based on the conversations that we had last month. And that was, in going through the ordinance, we sort of had this thing that was like a $50 fee, and it was never quite sure if it was like a security deposit, or was it an application fee, or was it a permit fee. The way that it was written and then the way we've interpreted it has sort of changed. And so Gabe and I came up with the idea of a non-refundable $50 processing fee. And so that $50 is acknowledging the fact that it takes time and energy and people's to process these applications and to not just do it on the front end, but on the back end, and any changes in so this is really paying for, Nikki's time to be processing this. Anything that has to happen in between with her calling or updating people or gathering the permits. So that is a non-refundable fee. And then there is a refundable security deposit of $150 that has to be submitted within 14 days of the permit approval. And this is to hopefully address the trash issue that we've had. We have in the last couple of years had a significant trash issue in the village. And when there are events on the green, there has never been a mechanism for us to make sure that people clean up after themselves. So this security deposit is refundable if people clean up after themselves. So as long as there's no debris, there's no trash left over. And this would be, if you have trash and it fits in the trash can, great. But if anything starts overflowing or if it doesn't fit, you have to take it out. Because if you don't, then we have to pay our guys overtime to then go get that trash. So the town is paying for it one way or the other. The next one is,
Do you want, as we go through them or at the end?
well, if you guys want to talk about it as we go through, that's fine.
I just had two quick comments on this
Yeah.
one. One, how are we gonna judge if something's picked up in a satisfactory condition? Like what's the mechanism for someone who's there on a Saturday to know that the mess that we find on Sunday is not from them or from them? Will be a question I have. And the other one is I don't have an answer for this. But collecting $150, processing that check, and then potentially cutting a check a month later to give them back $150.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just process on our end. So I don't know. I don't have a solution for that. I just want to point that out as we talk about this to see if people have a better idea of how best to work with that. Just two things that jumped out at me.
Yeah, Eric,
I
so I know I've had instances for things that I've put deposits on previously for an event or something else like that. And they usually just hold on to the check, and what they do is then they cash it if you don't do it at the end. And I don't know if that's one that you'd like to, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I've had those instances with them.
I think it's good if we're holding check for a month. I don't know if we're holding check for the mark on the green. If that puts it in February and we're holding a check until September. So I don't know, maybe there's some leeway on different ones, but
Yeah, on that one, it probably becomes a stale check. But
yeah.
if we're collecting these within 14 days and they have the event, then you really will be within reasonable amount of time to be able to do something with the check.
Makes sense.
I think with the checking up on it, that can be either, I mean, I am mostly concerned about trash. That tends to be the main thing that I'm concerned about. I mean, I guess there's a possibility someone could knock over a tree, but that would be pretty obvious. If that's a thing that DPW or even one of the trustees just walks through the green and says, yep, it's good. I mean, it can be something that we assign when we do the permit, but there could be another way to do that.
Hey, Seton, I have a question here. I thought we had changed village manager to municipal manager.
There are a couple of things that I haven't gotten correct in this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember we had discussed that. I
Yeah.
don't know if Eric is a village manager of the village people,
No.
but yes.
No, a lot of this was copying and pasting things, so
Okay.
but I'm changing it in the document right now.
Okay.
Do you have a question, comment?
Yeah, Beth?
I do. And I'm, as someone that uses the green, and I appreciate it. I mean, Wassel was overwhelming, and I get it. And we would probably share the $150 with everyone, because we're going to generate trash. I went through the village on New Year's Eve and everything was overflowing too, and there were no events. But the $150 deposit seems excessive for the chamber somewhat, but so if I have 5 events, that's a significant amount of money that you're going to be holding. But then what happens when the girls field hockey team wants to have an event on the green and their mom's going to have to put up $150?
So
Or-
I'm addressing that later in the use of green permit.
Okay,
So I'll be getting to that, but I
I'll
hear
be-
you on the $150.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments about, or suggestions about what we've already done, what we've already looked at? Okay, and again, this is a first draft, so this is all for discussion.
No, there's a municipal manager there.
Yep, oh, I changed some of them.
See, now I have a question.
Yeah,
So we've had a lot of, I've had a lot of correspondence with the East End Park people and the relationship of the fees, how they relate in terms of their, the magnitude of difference. And they're trying to obviously encourage people to go to Easton Park, but we have a certain policy of Easton Park fees that they're considerably higher than the green. So they kind of in a competitive situation. Maybe this is not a discussion that's appropriate for this meeting at this time, but getting the fees for both facilities closer together gives Easton Park more an opportunity to draw people to their facility, to their park, and that's I've been approached by them a bunch of times about that. So
all I can tell you with going through here, with the exception of the things that are private or for-profit groups, like for-profit groups, that's where we added the actual like use of green fee. And so that I'm okay with us like bringing in revenue. But what I'm trying to do with the security deposit and the application fee is to recognize that the municipality spends money on these things already, whether it's Nikki's time or Eric's time or anybody else that is affected by a permit. And the trash is something that then affects the DPW's time. And so all of that is worth something. So like, I'm not trying to make money on it. But I don't want the municipality to lose money when there's an event.
Yeah, my point was that the having the fees be closer together in terms of the amount of money. It seems like the fees for East End Park, I haven't looked at it closely in detail recently, but they're a lot higher than what would it cost to be on the green. So if there's an event, the choice between the green and East End Park is, East End Park's 5 times as expensive, so we should try to use the green. And East End Park doesn't get the traffic they're looking for, not just notoriety, but for their finances too. So it's something that'd be, I think, a parks parks manager would be great to analyze this kind of thing. But
Okay.
it's a concern. Just want to make sure that people are thinking about that when they're agreeing to set these fee levels too.
Okay. Well then, after we figure this out, we can figure out East End Park.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, what I'm saying? If it's $500, $550 for this many people at the green versus a gathering of the same size at East End Park, and one is significantly different than the other, it gives a disadvantage to them in terms of attracting parties to come to their park.
Okay.
And so that's if it's way misaligned, that they go, oh, it's not fair, we can't compete with the green, and therefore we're not getting people to come to our park. That's the voicing I get. So.
Okay. So let's move on. The next just update was I updated on the certificate of insurance. Previously did not say that it had to list the village or the town as additionally covered. So I just added that in. Something that we've talked about in our meetings before, down in 9205 about the application process. I put in that a representative or someone from the organization has to attend the meeting. We've talked about that in the past where we get a permit and then no one shows up and it's difficult because sometimes we have questions. So this just codifies that somebody has to be at the meeting, you know, in person on Zoom, so that before we make a decision about it. The next one under nature of licenses, that's just some legal stuff that I found from Lebanon that I stole, but thought was helpful. Under chapter 3, section 9301, general prohibitions, we talked about that there was a prohibition of driving any car on the green, and we wanted to specify that it's okay if it's like a display and as part of a larger permit, so that it's not like, can't go hot rodding, but if it's a car display or something like that, or it's the fire truck and it's for display, that's fine.
Can we go back and discuss any things that are in here that were not under green?
Yeah, the next one is just all the stuff for the gore.
I know, but so before we get to the gore.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have a couple of things.
Yes.
First of all, under H of standards, you know, which gives you times.
Yes.
I don't think it should be 8 p.m.
What do you think it should be?
I think it should match what we allow at the Woodstock Inn right across the road at 10 p.m. And we've had events there that have gone to that point. So I think it's my recommendation that it be 10.
That makes sense, Jeffrey. Since
Okay.
the ordinance takes, you know, the noise ordinance begins at 10 or 10:01, I guess.
Oh, I thought it went,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, that's when it, yeah. So I just think that would be a little more uniform
okay.
and appropriate. The next one is under I of standards. The sentence is confusing, I think. I understand what you tried to accomplish there, but where it says permits may be granted to 2 or more nonprofit organizations from Woodstock for the same date and or times, provided the granting of such permits shall not cause an overlap in the use of any portion of the village green, including dates and or time permitted for setup. That doesn't make sense.
Okay. Seems like we could take out that last section. So we don't want them to overlap in the space that they're using.
No, that can't be in the exact same space, but they're going to overlap on terms of the time, or they might overlap in when they are setting up on that date.
Okay.
Yeah, fair point.
Okay.
Beth, did you have something?
And you know that I am just opposed to giving 2 permits for the same date and
Yeah.
time for,
Yeah, we know that.
so I'm just stating it again.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very confusing. I think it puts you folks, again, what happens if someone decides they want to do something during the market on the green, and we have 40 booths already, which you've deemed, you know, kind of like the max, and then they want to do something else, or the art festival. It just seems, and again, I would, if I would respect Bookstock and not want to do something on the green during Bookstock because they have the green, and I just think, I think it's up to the I think you should have a primary entity that has the use of the green for the time that they've requested.
Well, I think the thing that we want to keep is that you don't overlap in any portion of the village green.
Right.
So if Bookstock said, we need the entire space, even because we have intentionally left some spaces blank for whatever,
Right.
then if they come first and they say, we want the permit for the entire green, even if we don't have infrastructure or anything on that, we would say, yes, you've got the entire thing. So when someone comes and says, I want to sell whatever on the green, or I want to have a prayer service on the green, then we say, well, Bookstock has already, they've permitted for the entire thing, so there's no space. So I think that's us educating the permit requester on, are you okay? Like realizing like someone else could come here, is that okay? And then the trustees also advising like, okay, you are only using 1/4 of it. It's a little greedy to ask for all of it. And that's a conversation we can have, but
Yeah, we have to use common sense.
yeah.
I mean, when we had the girls' basketball team out there,
Yeah.
Not interfering with what you'd set up, Beth, They were ecstatic about how it helped their nonprofit organization. And it didn't interfere with your operation. So common sense says we wouldn't do that for something of a different nature.
But if there was puppies and pooches on one far end, and then somebody says, I want to sell my paintings on the other end, maybe that doesn't interfere,
Yeah.
but it has to be part of the.
I don't know. I still am so opposed to it, but that's, I
Well, but
don't
we
have a
can't,
say.
if one group is there and not taking up very much space, we certainly can't restrict the entire thing.
Right, but puppies and pooches takes up, I mean, I just think maybe that was a bad choice to use as a,
Well, it's just an example, but I'm saying that it's certainly possible for two different things to be on the green that are less complicated than book stock. Okay, so anything else, anybody else about what we've covered so far? Okay, so the next one is the big one, and this was the first stab at the gore. So when I said, Beth, that we would be talking about things a little bit later, this is where I'm saying on the gore, because it is a smaller space, that this is where your, you know, sort of like more one-off smaller events are, and then we're not charging a big fee. We're not saying that you have to have like, we're not charging the security deposit. So the groups that are really just there to make money because they are a hockey team or a basketball team or the garden club, then they can have that space, and then we're not charging them other things. But so big things go on the green, small things go on the gore. So big tentpole things are what you find on the green, one-offs are on the gore. And that's sort of how we've done this. And so with this, I wrote that the permits are limited to nonprofit organizations from Woodstock. So this is just nonprofit, this is just Woodstock, this is not Bridgewater, this is not Pomfret, this is not anything else. It is just local. And so that means, and for them, we're still gonna say there's a processing fee because people's time is money, but only $25. So it's much cheaper than if you're on the green. And then a lot of this is just the same sort of stuff that we have from the use of the green in terms of the specifics of this is what has to be in the application. And of course, just like on the green, there has to be a certificate of insurance. It is a liability issue for us. So that will be required. But of course, we've been able to help some of the nonprofits find cheaper stuff, and we will continue to help them with that. So the rest of this is really the basics that I mostly copied and pasted from.
So under standards, you would make the same change that we just discussed.
Yes,
And we are no longer at the end of the gore going to be the city.
that's right. Yeah. Where did I write that? You find my errors. You always find my errors.
Well, the city reserves the right.
Oh, born by the.
City of Woodstock. Yeah, it's in there twice, it's the word city.
Okay.
But so what do you guys think of that as as for the gore, like the concept?
I think it's good myself, but I do have a question. What if, when you say it's a nonprofit organization based in Woodstock only, what about the, someone like the encampment? Are they an organization?
I mean, if they're not making money, I mean,
They're not making money.
yeah, I mean, if what you want to say is a nonprofit or something not designed to make money.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're an official organization, but that's an example
Okay.
that has used that area that I should qualify.
Well, that'd be a variance, right, Jeffrey? And then the trustees could take it up and vote at their discretion, no?
That's fine, Gabe. That would make sense too.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that this is a space that we really want to be very local. I know that person's from Pomfret, and certainly, yes, we have the variance.
Yeah.
For those
And
things.
we had a group from Bridgewater about a month or two ago, no? That
Yeah,
came to us too.
and that's again, would have to be a variance, but I think I
Yeah.
really,
Yes, you're right, Gabe.
I want to like, for as much as we can, I'd like to keep like something that's like just for locals. Like this space is for local nonprofits.
I like the whole thing with the exception of those two comments I made about
Okay.
the standards and the city of Woodstock.
Okay.
I don't know if
And
it-
do we think
Mhm.
one or two groups on there? Can't remember what I wrote.
Well, that would depend, right? No?
So sort of like the same thing that like, if it's 2 lemonade stands, that's fine, but if it is like we know that the garden
The
club,
garden
Garden
club,
Club,
yeah.
Memorial Day, yeah, Garden Club's.
Yeah.
they take up a lot of space, so it'd be
Yeah.
space dependent again.
Yeah, that would be,
Okay.
based on common sense, size of the group.
Okay, so we would ask them to do the same thing that we do on the green, which is like, give us a map and show us exactly how much space you want. And then we make follow-up decisions on that. Okay,
See, now I'm missing the fees for the Gore are not the same or the same?
there are no
There's
fees for the
lesser-
Gore.
no
The
fees.
only-
There's just a.
Okay.
Go ahead, Seton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just the application fee. So it's and it's
$25.
less. It's a $25 application fee. And then
Right.
the COI, which of course we don't get the money for the COI, that's just to cover the insurance.
Understood. So basically, if you're the Garden Club, you pay $25 just to process the fee and you're done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you need the insurance too.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
so
well,
then
they need the insurance, but I just meant that in terms of cost, yeah.
yeah, but that's because this should be smaller groups. This is
Yeah.
not a book stock. This is a small group.
Understood. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments on this? Oh, Beth?
Just,
Yes.
so what if somebody wants to expand and use the green and the gore at the same time for an event?
I mean, we'd have to make I mean, if there are 2 permits, then they could apply for 2 permits. We'd have to, yeah, I mean, it would have to be 2 permits.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just made me think that it could be, Bookstock could, want 10, and I'm not, please, I'm picking on them.
Yeah,
The
no,
market could
just an
want to
example.
expand,
Yeah.
there.
Lisa, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea, and I'm really happy to see this because, we have our little non-for-profits, and sometimes they get set aside, and this is a wonderful idea. It's a real nice way to show our smaller not-for-profits, our schools, our high schools, that they matter, and they can be a part of this without any extraordinary fees. So I think it's great.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions? I will make I'll make the updates on this and then bring it to the next meeting so that we can go over it some more.
I think you need to go and look up the East End Park fees and compare
Well,
them.
I'm not going to do this based on the
Yeah.
East End Park. I mean,
Well, I'm
the
just
East End
saying-
Park is a different thing.
Yeah, but at some point, our responsibility is to keep the parks viable and vibrant, right? So if it costs the permit to use one park is double what it is the other park, it's not.
Well, it sounds like we need to look
Yeah.
at the East End Park separately.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
trying
think
to
so.
make money off the green.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make money of East End Park either. I'm just saying this is a concern that's been presented to me several
Yes.
times. Yeah.
Well, then you can start looking at the East End Park fee
Okay.
structure then.
Yeah, and the fee structure was created with the Friends of the East End Park.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's where I'm hearing from.
Yes,
Right.
so they are welcome to come with some suggestions, or you can, and we can put it on a future agenda. Happy to talk about it. Okay, I will make those changes and report back next month. Next item is a discussion about banners over Central Street. So there is the ability to put a banner across Central Street. My understanding is that the banner doesn't go up because we don't have a ladder big enough. But in discussions with some constituents, they asked, could that be something that we permit? Certainly would mean that whoever asked for the permit would have to pay to have it put up because we can't do that. But is that an idea? What does everybody think about bringing that back? It was used in the past, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were hung by leaning out windows. Seriously, because there are attachments on both sides of the street under the window.
Oh, okay.
But
Like hanging out your laundry?
yeah, and then the last time it was done, I remember there was a little controversy because some kid miraculously managed to get his shoes
Oh, yeah.
hung over them, And everyone was like cracking up about that, but you know, what's gonna happen? Look at the shoes up there. But I think that, you know, so long as we, I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't be against banners there that from an organization or an event that we all think the community would enjoy.
But like
I
bigger,
don't like it.
you don't like it?
No, it makes the town look tacky, and I think banners right across the middle of the central street would look awful. I mean, that's my opinion. Everybody can have a different opinion, but
Have you ever seen them in Hanover, Bill?
I've seen them in many towns, and I don't like them.
Okay,
Okay, well,
All right.
there's both.
It's just my opinion. It's just
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Brenda, Gabe,
I don't mind them as long as they have the right content and, you know, not offensive. I guess we'd have to make a determination once again as trustees.
I
Yeah.
second with Gabe.
looking at Hanover, like Jeffrey said, I would love to have the banners there, but I would want to restrict it pretty heavily in terms of it's not something that anybody can get at any time, that it is tentpole events, so like really big events, or it is vote today or congratulations seniors, like almost more like less I don't say less touristy, but more for like the community than anything else. Or like
Right,
Happy Fall
Seton.
or something like that.
Seton, and I would add that it's not for commercial advertisements.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you know, what's to stop like the Ace Hardware to put a banner up there or something?
No, no,
Just
no.
Yeah,
no.
but like Happy 4th of July, I don't, sort of like festive sort of things. I don't know how to define that, but community centered something. I don't know. I can write up a draft and bring it next month.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. Okay, next item is the conflict of interest policy. Eric?
Yeah, so a while back, there was a meeting of the both boards, select board and the trustees, talking about updating a conflict of interest policy, specifically with, language that basically said someone that was an elected official could also not work for the municipality. I sent that, warning to our, attorneys, then I had a conversation with them. It is their guidance that doing so would infringe on someone's constitutional right to run for office. And therefore they recommend that we do not include it, as a sense that we could at some point be sued by someone who either was an employee and wanted to run for office or vice versa. That it's up to the public when they're voting for someone to decide whether that person has the right mentality and ability to separate the two different things at the time, and the voters have the final say. So that's kind of where they came down on pretty heavily with us that we should not include it. So I want to give that update today to the board.
so the recommendation is for us not to do it. So they didn't say don't do it, but recommendation not to do it.
Yeah, let me get the exact wording. They said we would have a concern that a town maybe or village may be infringing on a person's constitutional rights as they pertain to run for public office. If challenged, the municipality would likely need to justify the restriction by showing a compelling interest and a lack of alternatives. This is a difficult test to satisfy, so our advice is not to expand a list of words for the conflict of interest.
Okay, so I guess there's not much more to talk about then.
My one question, and I don't know the answer, so it's a legitimate question, is so if you are a state legislator, my understanding is that you can't work for the state because then you would be legislating your own budget.
I don't have the answer for you on that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a sort of state law, but I didn't know this time. I thinking back, even in Massachusetts, there were people who worked for the municipality and were also on select boards as well. So it does happen in other places too.
Okay. Okay.
And
Any other-
teachers that have been on school boards.
Sorry.
And teachers who have also served on school boards.
Yeah.
I know in my town that's happened.
Okay, any other questions or comments about that? Okay. So next is a conversation about village meeting day and voting options. So this was added to the agenda because it's something that the town is talking about. So I figured if they were talking about it, it makes sense for us to have a similar conversation because I've had conversations with our constituents. In fact, last year at Village Meeting Day about how we've got only so many people vote on the budget, and those people who show up, which is not very many people. And so last night at the select board meeting, they voted because there's a law in Vermont right now, a COVID law that says you can, this year, a select board can vote to put everything on the Australian ballot, so nothing gets voted on town meeting day. So they voted last night 3-2 to do that for this year. So there will be, so all voting for the town will be on Australian ballot this year. And then they'll make a decision about if they want to do that for next year. And Eric, is it going to be on the ballot this year about whether they want to?
They won't make the decision. There'll be a special meeting that public will have to vote.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't put on you can't change the way you vote in a different way of voting, if that makes sense. So if you
Okay.
vote by the floor, you can't make that change by Australian ballot. You have to make that change by floor vote.
Okay. So that's what the town is doing. Just to give you some information, obviously in 2020, 2021, and 2022, we did not have village meeting. We were on Zoom. But last year we had 18 people at village meeting that voted on the budget. And we had 40 people show up to vote Australian ballot. And that is out of 875 registered voters. So last year, 18 people made a decision for 875 people.
And only 40 voted on Tuesday.
But in 2022, which was an election year for everything else, there were 146 people who voted by Australian ballot. So I would imagine that there probably would have been a couple more people at the village meeting. But if you figure, not that it's a good sample size, but if half the people that vote Australian ballot vote on village meeting, then that's still not a great number. So it's just worth saying we are asking people to come out for two things. And we have 875 people, and last year 18 people made the decision on the budget. So the question is, so in your packet, you'll see, and this is something that Laura Howell wrote up for the select board, but it outlines what their options are. Presumably the options are the same for us. I think Eric was gonna double check on it. But what we could do is we could do nothing this year. Or this year we could vote at some point to move everything to Australian ballot. I believe just like the select board, we could vote to have everything on Australian ballot this year under that COVID rule. So those are the three options for this year. Yeah, that's it. So discuss.
Okay, I have a comment on that. I was very much against the decision for the town because I think it hurts the community and the sense of community. And as opposed to what I wish they had done is what I'd recommend that we do, which is that we really let people know that it's important to show up, to listen to the budget, to raise whatever concerns they might have, to make a stronger push, even if we're on the listserv 4 days in a row, in the Vermont Standard, saying that we strongly urge you to attend and see as a test, does that influence the number of people who show up? I'm hoping it would. And if it doesn't, we make a decision in the future. Well, actually, it would be by a vote of the people to go to, because it wouldn't be under COVID rules anymore. So you'd have to have a vote, as the town would have to have a vote after this year, in order to go strictly to Australian ballot with simply an informational meeting with no voting. So I think we should continue the way we have done so for so long, and in terms of having a meeting, but I think we should urge people to attend in a stronger manner than simply having the banner up saying vote Tuesday, and which doesn't necessarily bring people into the meeting Tuesday night. I'd like to see a stronger push to see if we can get the numbers back up.
Okay, other trustees, what do you guys think?
I agree with Jeffrey.
Bill, Brenda?
I agree with Jeffrey too.
I
More
agree.
people in person, yeah.
Okay, so this year we put a concerted effort into getting people out to both things. Okay. And who would like to work on the communication of getting more people out? Okay, Jeffrey's gonna work on that. Okay, Jeffrey. Anybody else want to help Jeffrey?
I'll try.
Okay.
Not sure how to do it, but Jeffrey can give me some guidance with legwork.
Okay,
I can help him with.
sure.
Right?
Yeah, we can get together and talk about
Yeah.
it.
Sure, I'd like to do that. Yeah.
Jeffrey, I'll help.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay, thanks, guys. Okay, moving on. Is there any other business to come before the trustees?
Yeah,
Yes.
one item. And again, Eric, Seton knows about this, you know about it. The other trustees don't really know about this thing that we put in front of lawyers regarding the 1% sales tax and the village's ability to opt out. So for the other trustees, I want to point out.
Yeah, so
I would like to point out that there's a little history. Well, one example would be when the town voted to go to a certain numbering system for homes.
I don't know that I know what the select board was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is
Jeff, you want me to give a quick background?
This is about the select board is deciding whether we should have a 1% sales tax, general sales tax in Woodstock. Okay. And the idea would be that would apply universally. When the select board decided they wanted to change the numbering system for the homes and for the town, the village of Woodstock voted to opt out of that. And we retained the house numbers, building numbers that we currently have. That's one example of how the municipality of the village of Woodstock did not want to do exactly what the town wanted to do. Now, I'm not saying that the village wouldn't agree in a vote with the town, but if the village had the option of either not opting out or opting out, it would give the village that option that the town's not giving them. And so I asked Eric to check with lawyers on that, and I assume we still haven't gotten an answer.
I haven't heard back yet.
So I just wanted the other trustees to be aware that this has been brought up as a question regarding the 1% sales tax option.
Okay.
That's it.
Any conversation on that? No? Okay. Thanks for the update, Jeffrey.
Yep.
Okay. Any other business? No? Okay, in that case, minutes, Jeffrey.
I just couldn't find a single friggin' error.
What?
A++,
Amazing.
but they were short, you know? You did a great job. Thank you, Nikki.
Awesome.
I would make a motion to
We need
approve,
to have longer meetings. They're not long enough.
to approve both sets of minutes.
Okay, I second. Is, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and in that case, I would make a motion to adjourn for the evening. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't care.
Aye.
At 8:06.
At 8:06. Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, y'all. Stay safe and warm.
You too.